Okay, we are live right now. Are you ready, my friend?
I am.
Okay. Welcome back, everyone, to a very special episode of Let's Talk Shop. This one is different. I have been meddling around a little bit with some of my roots and some of my culture where I come from, Lebanon. So I've been doing some of that. I did a podcast with the head of AWS at reInvent for EMEA. That was a great podcast. But today it's a little more special. Today he's a friend. He's a world famous food blogger. He's a doctor. And he's taken on a very, in my opinion, sacred mission of uncovering pockets of Lebanese everywhere in the world, highlighting their successes, talking about how they've brought their culture, their food, everything with them. And he has his own very super interesting style of food blogging. When you watch his videos, and you should, I'm going to make sure there's links to everything down there, you feel like you're eating with him. So he doesn't just eat the food and say, hey, this is good. He will describe every freaking sense and talk to you about how the food looks and the shininess of the food and the crunchiness and the airiness of the food. He's really done his own style. He is up to 1.8, 1.9 million subscribers, people that love him and follow him. For me, he is the most important ambassador to Lebanon in the world, and he's someone I'm very proud to call my friend. So after this huge introduction, it is my great pleasure to have Dr. Anthony Rahayel. Oh, one more thing. He's also a dentist that decided to become a food blogger. He's an author of several books. So, without further ado, my great pleasure to have Dr. Anthony Rahayel as a guest on the podcast today. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Hi, Elias. Thank you for having me. Actually, and I'm very happy how this started and how the discussion started and how we planned of having a live podcast to discuss an issue I'm having.
So, before we get into your issue, just to set some expectations. So, we are streaming live on both my channel and Anthony's channel. Um, for my audience, you guys have probably never met Anthony. So, I just want to say that if we use multiple languages, if we go in and out between Arabic, French, and English or whatever, stay with me. I promise you will be able to follow, and I promise I will translate anything that is unclear. Feel free to leave a comment, feel free to ask a question, anything you want. I promise this will turn techie in a second, but I just wanted to set some expectations so that there's no shock as to, well, how is this working, and why are you streaming this live? So Anthony, a little bit of background on how we met, maybe before we start.
Yes, I'm from Lebanon, and I say that I live in Lebanon. Home is Lebanon. My family is in Lebanon, but I've been all around the world 250 days a year for the last couple of years, searching for success stories, mainly Lebanese and Arab success stories, all across the globe. And I've heard about you, and especially about your dad. So I've searched around, we connected, and on my tour to Chicago, my first tour to Chicago, I decided to meet you, the family, and search for the origin and the name of your dad that has quite disappeared or left Lebanon for 2 or more decades. So accordingly, we met, we connected, we had an amazing chat, exceptional interview, and your dad has made a huge difference in many people's lives. His employees reconnected to him. We talked about the past, the origins of Lebanese cuisines, and the origins of the name and the famous restaurant that all of Lebanon knew about and talks about. And then I met you. You were here, became a close friend, very close friend. We connect, we talk, we share. We have lots of things in common, of which food, technology, and lots of other things. I'm very happy to discover that you are on YouTube. And then this is how it went. So one day I came to you and I said, I have a problem.
And that's what brings us to this podcast. So we decide to record this, to go live with this problem. So let's now switch to the issue at hand. Anthony, what's the issue? What's the problem?
So behind me, here, all of this are 300 terabytes of data. I've been touring around Lebanon to start since 2014, and then it expanded to the world. We started in SD, HD, and now 4K. And the last 2 months, we're filming in Netflix quality. So the amount of data we have is growing exponentially. So I went to you and said, help, please help. What do I do with 300 terabytes of data? I do not have a copy of them. They are here right behind me. What do I do? How do I back up? Should I use the cloud or not? Should I use one RAID system, one hard disk, many hard disks? Should I copy the data or not? Should I put it in a safe? How would it be relevant in a couple of years? And this is the only thing that is left. This is the only legacy that's left. So 12 years of filming Lebanon and the world, heritage, people that have unfortunately died, lots of businesses that have closed or have grown. I've started with black hair. Now I'm in the gray spot.
I'll link to some episodes where he didn't have the gray hair yet.
So this is how it started. So we had this discussion over dinner, and we planned to, okay, fine, let's share this with people. And I'm sure many of us have this issue. It all started back in probably the 90s, where the floppy disk was only 144 and 314. And back then, one image was nothing in megabytes. I remember buying my first SD card. It was not called an SD, it's what's called a CF. So the first card of a camera, a 1 terabyte, cost $750. It was a hard disk ongoing. You have to handle it with care. Copying it would take hours. What do we do? And then came the iPhone. The connector took long hours to move all the data from the phone to the hard disk. Normal hard disk moved to SSD. Again, more prices, expansion. And what you see behind me are the latest hard disk I've been buying, 20 terabyte each, USB 3, but not SSD. They are expensive. 20 terabyte, as I said, but unfortunately, the minute I have an issue, and I had an issue a couple of months ago, and I lost data on 20 terabyte of data, which cost me $4,500 US to bring back. And this is where the alarm rang. What do I do now? How do I take it to the next level? Okay, wait, I need to solve it.
Let's start with explain to me and everyone that's listening why you need to save this data. Like, you're putting it up on YouTube. You are, using it. I'm sure you're saving the raw format, but why do you need to save it? Why not do whatever you need to do with it, upload it, discard it?
So the data on YouTube is HD, SD, I would say quality, SD quality. So it's not the 4K we upload. You can watch it in 4K. You cannot download it in 4K. Every single day of filming is around 500 to 600 individual videos filmed on 3 cameras and then reunited to create that final export. All the data is raw. I never erase anything. I would keep it for different uses later on. So usually we do best ofs again. Usually when someone leaves this world, we re-edit something and say in remembrance of this person. Sometimes we go back in time and film and do the best of breakfast, the best of dinners, the best of travels. Now I'm traveling again to Australia. So I've republished the old things and saying, this is what I filmed the first time, the second time, the third time. 2020 was my first trip. What did I learn? How did I evolve to date? And the same for the States and the other things. So it's very important to keep this.
So it has a business value. There's a business use case that will justify whatever investment we're going to make. And I'm also assuming that one day, maybe your archive can be sold for someone to keep and maintain and, leverage however way possible. So we've established the use case. Now tell me, how many videos do you do a week?
We publish a minimum of 2 videos per day on YouTube. So I'm your unconventional YouTuber. I do not publish 1 video per week. It's 2 videos every single day. And whenever I'm on the run traveling, we go up to 3, sometimes 4. All of it is edited, music. It's not just content thrown online. And these are long format YouTube documentaries without mentioning or talking about the shorts, which is the same content we publish on Instagram as stories. So to date, we have 7,700 videos on YouTube and growing as we speak. Two again and again, every single night, 7 p.m., 9 p.m., and ongoing. So the content is huge, and the quantities are enormous.
Okay, so how much are you growing in terms of data a month? Do you have an idea? Is it 20 terabytes a month? Is it 40? Is it 10? عندك فكرة how much you're growing a month?
It's an average of 3 to 4 terabyte a month.
Okay. So we've established the business case. We've established the frequency. We've established the how much you're growing per month in terms of data. We've established that you want high availability, which means you want to make sure that if you lose one disk, you don't lose everything that's on the disk, and you don't have to go to any kind of data recovery services that cost a lot. We've established that you want to have some kind of redundancy so that if you lose, even if you go with, let's say, an array, if you lose the entire array, at least you have a backup of it somewhere else, because that's your work, that's your business, that's everything. If you lose that, there's nothing left. These are not something that you can replace. It's not like you can go around the world again and refilm the exact same thing. So you're losing the data. So the data is critical that you have a backup of the data. Headquarters is where? Is headquarters Beirut or Dubai?
The headquarters are Beirut. I'm in the office, the happy place, I would call it. We call it. So let me tell you a small thing also that triggered the question. So during, in 2020, the famous, not to be repeated, not to be mentioned, not to be talked about, the explosion of Beirut happened a few meters in front of me here on the side. And the blast destroyed completely the office, completely. You cannot imagine, nothing was standing over there. And unfortunately, the hard disks were at the office, but fortunately, they were behind one wall. And that is the only wall that didn't go down. And on that day, when I went into the office, live filmed on YouTube, everything was on the ground except the hard disks. And I looked at them and said, okay, wait, this is God's will. The hard disk are what we own is still here. We will rebuild the office, but we wouldn't have been able to rebuild the hard disks.
You know where you got lucky, Anthony? You know where you got lucky that the disks were not spinning, that the disks were off the way they are behind you right now.
Yeah.
If the disks were spinning, that would have been a problem.
I know, definitely. So these are lots of triggers happening, and the data is ongoing. My team is filming, I'm filming, and every night we come back, download, keep, store. Okay, and then what's next? What can I do? 300 today, 400 in a couple of years, or probably next year, and then what?
Okay. Look, I'm a little biased because of my history, because of what I've been doing, but I think you're going to like my arguments. But based on what I've heard from you, I think you have no choice other than to go with a cloud provider for your data. Whether it's AWS, whether it's Azure, whether it's Google, any cloud provider that's offering you cloud-based storage, my opinion, that is your best option. Now, you can ask me why, because you paused there.
No, I'm here. I'm just waiting for your solution.
So, let me tell you why I recommend the cloud. And I recommend the cloud for a variety of reasons. I recommend the cloud first and foremost because of, let's start with where you ended your conversation, which is the not to be repeated blast of 2020. It's sad, but let's put that aside for a second and talk about it from a practical perspective. If you had a RAID array in your office on that day with spinning disks, those traditional hard disks have the way they read the data, في مثل إبرة, there's like a needle that goes around the disk, and that's how it reads it. When this needle is when it's shaken, it's going to destroy the disk pretty much. It's going to ruin the disk. So if those were all running, it's resilient. So I'm not trying to underestimate it, but the blast was also, it's not made for a blast like that, and your office is not made for that. So that would have destroyed your data. So that's one. Number two, your headquarters is in Lebanon, and whether we like it or not, and as much as I love that country, The fact is, power is still not very consistent there. So when you lose power, you need to flip from whatever you're using from the government to whatever you have a subscription with. So there's still a flip. No matter how seamless it is, there's a flip. That means you're going to need to get some kind of battery backup, some kind of UPS to allow for you to maintain constant power when you're flipping from one to another. So those are environmental issues that you should take into account. But there's more. When you're using an array, a data array on premises, which is what you're going to put in your office, let's say we configure it for 300 terabytes, you get away with it for 300 terabytes. Now, you bought the first one, now you have to buy another one because we talked about backup. So it's not just high availability of the disks in terms of RAID, but we also need another copy of the data. So now you have two arrays. Two arrays, you want to keep them turned on, so you're synchronizing between them. That means UPS that can support both of them. At some point, because of the rate that you're growing at, which is, let's say, 3 terabytes per month, you're going to run out of space. That means you're going to start stacking more RAID arrays on top of each other. And that's fine. You buy bigger UPS. But at some point, you also need to buy some kind of cooling system to cool these down. Beirut in particular is not, hot weather is more dominant than cool weather. We get cool months, but the rest of the year is fairly hot. So you need to cool them down in some way, shape, or form. So now you need cooling also. So you can see how it very quickly starts to add up. And on top of all of that, I know that you have kids and you have a dog, you have Brownie. You are going to need to lock this stuff up because, again, most of the errors that I've experienced in my life are human errors. Someone clicks something by mistake, does something by mistake. Usually, these will contribute to your errors more often than not. So for all of this, I set cloud.
So you're speaking, and I'm seeing dollars all around the investment I'm going to put and how things are going to happen. Is internet quick enough and fast enough for me to get this data again and reuse it and re-edit it? Should I keep anything here or send everything on the cloud? Is it a monthly subscription or a yearly subscription? So lots of questions are coming into my head at the moment, and where should one start? So is it if I erase a file, can I get it? Should I send things in archive and the things I won't use anymore and come back to them in a couple of years? Is it half the data here, half the data on the cloud? How would you imagine things?
I would imagine things in a perfect world, everything is on the cloud. But you do bring up a good point. You have an internet connection speed concern that you have to take into account in Beirut in terms of if you want to retrieve data from the cloud, how long it will take. But regardless of that, even if it takes you 3 hours or 4 hours, that would still be my first choice. What is your concern with the cloud? Because I said cloud, I can see it in your eyes. You kind of hesitated a little bit. So what is the hesitation?
So the advantages...
You did some research on cloud, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. So the advantages of cloud is that I have my data all around, all across the globe. And definitely 99.99%, I won't be losing anything, and it's redundant, it's safe, and we'll choose the good supplier, the best supplier, to have it stored away in the best way possible. Okay. On another hand, I would need things now. So now I'm thinking of the re-edited video I want to do. So I need videos of your dad, I need videos of you. I'm searching now, I need some pictures of you and I in Chicago, and how can I use it as a thumbnail for the video? So lots of things I would need again. So is it searchable? Can I find the content? Should I rename it? Can I tag it? Would it be safe? Should I firewall it? Or the company would just cover it up and put it in a safe place? Is there a system where I have the same copy here so I don't have to erase anything, and I'll invest in a 20 terabyte hard disk that probably around $500-600 nowadays, and keep the original copy on the cloud or not? So probably many people are asking themselves the same questions. So we film, we take pictures, our phones reach a point where they're filled up. We have a hard disk, we put it in the bag, you take the bag, you travel with it, and then that hard disk is not safe. And then probably you leave it in the car one day, under the sun. What's happening? Is it, should I erase, empty my hard disk and rechange it every single year or 2, 3 years when new technology is out? I have lots of questions, Elias. What
Ask
do I
all the
do?
questions that you want. Let me answer as much as I can. The cloud is very searchable. The cloud, you can put a lot of metadata. You can rename your files. You can archive your files. There's different tiers of data. That aspect, yes. Is it secure? I say it's more secure than what you have anywhere on premises. It's just a matter of, are you going to use the cloud in a secure way? And I can help you. So is it secure? Yes. But when we talked last time when you were here, you were concerned that the cloud was very expensive. What was your assessment when you did your research? What did you find for cloud?
The average price I found is around 1,500 up to $3,000 a month, if I remember well, and that is much.
Okay. So the cloud has different tiers of storage for your data. So there's what they call long-term archive. Hey, this is the data that you're going to put, and you're most likely not going to access it again for a very long time. Maybe projects that you did, let's say 2 years ago or 3 years ago, you're just saving it. So it's long-term retention. It is the cheapest tier of data storage that you have. And then you start going up. So there are different tiers. Every tier is going to come with a price that's associated with it. Now, if you try to put everything on the most expensive tier, the most expensive tier is going to allow you to retrieve your data very quickly. So a matter of seconds, a matter of minutes, you get your data. But that comes at a cost. So when you're putting it at that expensive tier, you're going to pay for it at that rate. So if you decide at the end of this conversation that, hey, we're going to use the cloud, then I will set you up in a way so that you're using different tiers of the cloud to be able to leverage the information. Is it expensive? Yes. Is it justifiable? We established at the beginning of the conversation the business case. You can't lose this data. You lose this data, everything that you've worked for all your life is gone. So we have to find a way to marry the cost and your use case and make it acceptable to you. Now, you asked other questions about if you have your own disks, should you be replacing them? My answer is there should be no need to replace them as long as you have a good system. So let's say you have a RAID array on-prem in your office, and let's say you're using some kind of a RAID 5 configuration. A RAID 5 configuration will allow you to lose one hard disk, right? 2 hard disks, I believe. I remember the configuration. Usually those disks, if you're using a good RAID array controller, it will tell you that the disk is degrading. يعني صار تعب الديسك, you need to change it.
Mhm.
It will alert you. At that point, you buy a disk, you pull it out, replace it with another disk. So should you be replacing the disks on a regular basis? I wouldn't do that. I would make sure you have a good RAID array that can alert you when the disk is having issues, when there are errors. Sometimes the disk will have bad sectors on it. The array will be able to start detecting, hey, you're getting a lot of bad sectors on this drive, which is an indication that the drive is going to fail. At that point, you swap it out for a new one. Should you be upgrading the technology of the disk, مثلا from spinning disk, which is probably what you have, those are probably 7200 RPM disks, to like SSD. Of course, there's advantages to both. The spinning disks, the ones that you probably have, those are going to give you the larger capacity. They're going to be also cheaper in price. And they're usually good for this type of use case. The SSD is good for when you're using the hard drive for a different kind of use case, a different kind of application. For example, if you're using it, let's say to create virtual machines or containers, you probably want that faster access to the disk. SSDs are theoretically more reliable because there's no moving parts in them, but they come at a more expensive cost. So again, if we're trying to balance cost and functionality, you want to be somewhere in the middle. Make sense?
Definitely, definitely.
What else can I answer for you?
Um, That's good to start. So let's say we split it half. The things I do not use anymore, we'll send them on the cloud. We'll check with the cheapest, cost-effective solution, and definitely have a backup. And then I'll keep 20% of it here, or probably the last year.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
So let's say I keep it here. It needs to be connected on the same system that is the cloud, so it can be redundant in a way or another, or not. Two, should I, if I need to connect to it, should I install a firewall, or I would not connect to it and keep it the same way it is now, which is away from the internet and from hackers and viruses and etc. etc. We have an advantage that everything we use is Mac, so we're not on the PC side of viruses, etc. So how can I be well protected?
Okay. So I understand your hesitation on cloud. I understand the reluctance. And that's one thing I advise customers also is build a trust, build a relationship with the cloud. And the way we're going to do that is exactly what you said. Instead of putting everything in the cloud, you're going to feel like you're not in control. You're going to worry about security. It's expensive. I understand. So the way to get around this is to have some kind of a hybrid solution. Like you said, we're going to give you a RAID array that you put on-prem in your office that you're going to use, let's say, for projects that you've done in the last 18 months. You will decide, hey, I need 18 months worth of project. The projects, لأكتر شيء, you go back to them. And the ones that you're going to go back to them the most. So if you feel like in the last 18 months, that's kind of what you need, we will figure out what the size is, how much data there is there, and we will store that on-prem. That will be stuff that you can access very quickly whenever you want. Everything else, especially things that are 2 years or more older, we'll put it on the cloud and we will tier it so that we reduce the cost as much as possible. That way, you kind of have the best of both worlds. Regarding a firewall, you and me can talk about how we're going to configure this later. I don't think you need a firewall. Again, if you go with some of the cloud providers that I will talk about, there's already a firewall there. In your office, you probably already have some kind of a firewall. We can talk about what you want to do there. How to connect your array with the cloud, we'll talk about a configuration for that. But I don't think we need to do firewall. If you're very concerned, we can also always encrypt your files so that even when they're stored in the cloud provider can't really access them. They're encrypted. So unless they have your private key, they can't unencrypt the files. So we can talk about that. So how about a hybrid system? How does that sound?
Amazing. I believe this is what we need. So probably a NAS system at the office and RAID 5 for the last year or two. Make sure all the old data I don't need anymore, and send them on the cloud.
Okay. Now, you do realize, again, to reiterate, if you're going to do that, you're going to need 100% a UPS system for this, especially so that the power can stay stable. And when the power is switching back and forth, you don't feel the bump on the RAID array. That is crucial. You're good with that.
We already did, and we have WPS, so redundant one-on-one, two in parallel units, which are covering the hard disk and the office for at least 2 hours, up to 3 hours if air conditioning units are not on. And to date, we never had issues with that.
Okay. Now, Inta, when you edit, usually, do you edit locally on your Mac, or do you edit? You don't have a NAS right now, correct?
No.
Okay. So you're doing all of your editing locally, and then you copy your project files, hopefully to a NAS, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. At some point, we'll also talk about your home network and how to make that copy.
The office, the team, the 7 family members, which are the team, would love to have a NAS system where they can edit together on several timelines and work together. And instead of sending, we transfer links of files from one to another, or airdrop files from one computer to the next. Would love definitely to have a unified one central system where they can grab any data they want and hopefully work together on several timelines, so every video wouldn't take 2 or 3 days but would finish in a few hours.
Kareem, is he somewhere jumping and dancing right now, or is he
Kareem,
behind the camera somewhere?
Karim is on a mission filming. We're creating several new documentaries for Lebanon, which is a surprise for everyone and definitely for the several people watching now. We're creating a new direction of amazing videos for Lebanon, of stories, heroes, lots of things. And today they've been up since 5 a.m. Filming sunrise in Tripoli, and they're not back yet.
Anyway, we will tell Kareem later about what we're doing. Okay, so we decided that we're going to have a hybrid environment. We'll talk later about what we're going to have in your office so that the team can edit off the NAS in a fast way. Because again, you need fast links then between the computer and the NAS, etc. We'll talk about that later. I actually have a surprise for you from two vendors
Okay.
that I explained to them the project that the use case, the challenge that you have,
Mhm.
and they were both very excited to help. They wanted to be part of your journey. They wanted to be part of you building this technology environment. So the first one, and we also have a guest that I'm going to add to the podcast. His name is Doug. He's from a company called Synology. Synology makes very nice NAS devices. I use them personally, and I want to bring Doug onto the show so that he can tell you a little bit about Synology and about how we are going to help you with what you're doing.
So I feel it's Christmas earlier.
Christmas is early. Doug, welcome to the show.
Merry Christmas, Anthony. Merry Christmas. I gotta say, like, watching the background. So I was kind of sitting here just in the back watching your show, and I'm a foodie, and I love Western Asian food. I love Middle Eastern food. So it's pretty cool. I'm really excited to be here talking with you today and kind of going over what the Synology NAS can, I hope, do for your environment, right? There's been a lot of things I've been listening in the background. And I want to say this is something that I hear just about every day, right? When we're working with our clients, when we're working with home users, SMB users that are just taking photographs. I work mainly on the enterprise side of things. And to kind of put things into perspective, I'm working with a school right now that does a lot of media, does a lot of recording, and they're currently moving a lot of data to a Synology NAS. Now, that amount of data is 30 terabytes over the course of about 15 years, 15 to 20 years. You have 300 terabytes, my friend.
He's
Yeah.
10
That
times
is a
more.
lot of that is a lot of recordings, and definitely something that, you know, us in the NAS industry, we're like, that's awesome. You know, that's great. That sounds really cool. So the product that we're presenting, you know, for you today is a Synology NAS desktop, right? And it is something that would allow you to sort of streamline your data storage requirements. It's great to hear that you have a NAS. And I think before I get into anything else, is there any questions that you have, Anthony, in particular
No,
about
I'm
this
excited.
knowledge?
I'm excited. Christmas.
Yeah,
Jingle
yeah,
bells.
So, I mean, one thing that I heard today was really the ability to have a hybrid environment, right? So, I think Elias is going to talk a little bit about, you know, cloud solutions that he would suggest for you, of course, right? But from the Synology perspective, a lot of people hear the word network attached storage, right? I think we're so much more than that at this point. So we actually have an automated system on the NAS called Hybrid Share that allows you to cache frequently accessed data locally and then push data that you don't want to keep locally to a cloud provider. In this case, Hybrid Share works with our cloud called C2. So C2 is a proprietary cloud solution that is kind of baked right into the file system of your Synology NAS. Now, I do have a few new notes that I took, so I'm going to kind of go over one thing as I heard in the conversation. I heard the word heat come up in this conversation, and I've never been to Lebanon. I lived in Brazil for a couple of years. It was hot, but I don't think it's the same kind of heat in Lebanon, right? So we have actually been deployed to in Saudi Arabia. I can use one case with a Holiday Inn in Riyadh, and
Mhm.
there's 1,000 different reasons why they selected us. Like, do you know what the top reason was?
Tell me,
They selected us for surveillance. Was that?
tell me it's the heat.
It's the heat, my friend. Yeah. So we run cool. We run cool, which is definitely nice to know.
Well,
You know,
Lebanon's not
and
as
I
hot
also,
as Saudi
yeah.
Arabia, but that's good to know.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, I heard a little bit about subscriptions and unknowns in terms of um, cloud access. And I just want to say, with a NAS on-prem, you're going to have a lot more data portability, right? That ability to kind of access your data immediately, back up your data immediately. And if you have to edit it, put it right onto a system, edit it, and do all that kind of stuff, right? You also mentioned availability. And, I don't know how deep you guys want me to get into that conversation, but Synology actually can have that availability just about anywhere in the world using a protocol called Quick Connect. So if
Mhm.
you're in the United States, if you're in Canada, if you're in Lebanon, I don't know how frequently you get up to Europe, you can basically just go on your laptop and access your NAS just about anywhere. And all of that is done through a hyper secure encrypted connection, which is just great. There's no additional cost to that, which is just so nice. And in terms of bad sectors, in terms of drive failure, that's why we've got the RAID, right? But at the end of the day, the thing that stood out the most to me here is the amount of data that you need to keep both accessible locally and secure for the future. I mean, it was just such a blessing to hear that your drives weren't destroyed, right? And I'm so happy that they weren't in that explosion. I mean, had they been, this is very deep, but I mean, I said, had they been, we may not be having this conversation today, right? So it's extremely important to keep your data secure. So that's just my, I guess, 5-10 cents. What kind of questions? And if you guys have questions for me, please feel free to put them out there.
That's amazing to hear. I just
Yeah.
feel lots of weight going out of my shoulders. I'm starting to imagine that system we're gonna implement and how it's gonna be connected. And we're very happy to have a very fast connection at the office lately, and how the team is gonna be happy. And how can I connect when I'm traveling abroad? And how can I add data to the NAS immediately without having to we transfer it and then they will have to download it back again. And how together we're going to have I'm going to upload while before sleeping. They're going to wake up to having the data, work on helping in some of the edits, and then send back or upload on YouTube immediately. So I'm very happy to hear all of this, and definitely all the data between 2015 and 2021 is not being used as much as before. So we are ready to reorganize it in a way or another. Probably, I'm thinking of putting all the exported files on a different system and all the raw data on another system. So at least if by any chance there's a World War III, I would definitely have the exported files at least, and all the raw data would come as secondary. So I'm very happy to find solutions for that. Thank you.
Anthony, I have another option for you.
Absolutely.
There's something called space storage now. If you really want, we can save your data in space.
Oh, that's cool.
What? Really? Is that what?
Oh yeah.
Is it?
Well,
Is
a
that
thing.
real? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All
Oh, yeah.
right.
Yeah, there's a constellation up there, Internet 2, basically. It's a ring in space, and there's actually folks storing. There's storage up there. I mean, it's crazy expensive, but yeah, there's a blockchain in space now. So take that for what it is.
That's
Okay,
great.
so we learned. So Synology is offering you a chassis. They have shipped the chassis. I have the chassis with me. I will find a way to get it to you. We'll do later an unboxing, a setup, etc. We'll show folks later kind of where we were and where we ended up being after this environment. I didn't know Synology had a cloud service, so we will definitely take a look at that as well and see, if it can fit in this configuration. So I'm super excited, folks. I'm also, for those watching, I'm gonna put some links in the description to Synology. They've got some good tools on how to size the NAS. There's good information on it. I think there's some new products that are being announced soon as well, if I'm not mistaken, Doug. I'm not going to rain on that parade, but if there's something that's not under embargo that you want to share real quick, go ahead. After that, Anthony and I will.
Let's talk about the enclosure a little bit. How many bays do we have on it?
I haven't looked at it. I believe it's 8, and then there's another expansion one that I have for you also that will increase it by 5. So I think it's a total of 13, but I'll double check. I'll let you know.
Amazing.
Yeah,
spot on. So depending on the hard disk, 20 or 40, it can take half the data or all of it, and then we can expand with fifth. So this way, I can keep all the data if I wish to invest in such a NAS system and keep all the data on premise and have a copy of it on the cloud, or at least the important parts, the important ones of it. So this way, I would rest assured that at any point in time, whatever happens, heat, war, explosion, World War III or whatever, there is a backup of this data, which is very, very, very valuable to me, my kids, and probably lots of Lebanese all around the world.
Amazing. Doug, any interesting announcements that you can share, or should we just wait?
Well, I mean, I should say, I think our disk station manager system is going to have some really exciting updates coming later this year, maybe early next year, that is really driven towards the enterprise environments that we've been working in. It's going to streamline access. Just so many things that people are asking for that I know our developers are really hard at work in. I don't know anything specific. I'm just kind of told, hey, we've got these general things coming, and I'm really looking forward to them.
Perfect. Doug, thank you so much for making time to jump on today, to talk to Anthony, to share.
Thank you for having
this very generous offering. We thank you, obviously, and we'll later show you guys kind of how we're doing it. Hopefully, this becomes a blueprint for maybe other bloggers that are watching this, that have maybe the same challenge that Anthony has. Maybe they'll follow the same approach that hopefully we'll take. And Anthony, any last questions to Doug?
Thank you, Doug. Again, thank you for your initiative. Thank you for believing in what we're doing and believing in our mission. Thank you for supporting our cause, and definitely we'll stay in touch. Probably I would have one more question, which is important, and lots of people would have it as well. So when I usually buy this enclosure, or at this time it's going to be a gift, would a support system help me use it, install it, talk with me, and give me the best solution between having it on premise or in the cloud? So after someone buys from you, does it continue with enough support to know what to do and how to do it?
Yeah, so we actually have a team of technical account managers globally that can support you from a deployment perspective and kind of help you along the way, give you guidance, show you how to do things, right? And make sure that you're deploying best practices. I mean, this is something that I work on every day. I do work with pre-sales. I work with post-sales support and onward. And we have a really robust support team. So if you have very technical questions or very technical use cases, you can always submit a support ticket through your Synology profile. And in about an hour, no more than, I would say, about 24 hours, our support team will get back to you and give you some very good guidance and have a one-on-one conversation with you over chat. But I'm here for you. I mean, if you all need anything, if you have direct questions, Elias, Anthony, I'm more than happy to jump in and help you guys.
Yeah, as I get the enclosure to him and we begin the setup, I'll definitely help him as much as I can. I'll share all my experience. It's good to know. It's a great question. It's good to know that you guys are there, and he can reach out, without having to come through me every time. So that was a really good question. But yeah, we'll definitely leverage you guys, as we're doing this before we set it up, just to make sure everything is done according to best practice. I do want to ask you one last question. I know the answer, but I want to hear you say it. If we end up going with a mixture of the C2 cloud, but also leverage AWS, I'm assuming Synology connects to S3 flawlessly.
We do. Yeah, anything that uses an S3 API, we can connect to. And now, if you want to do the hybrid share option, where you can kind of automatically from the Synology back stuff up to your cloud environment, that needs to be C2. That's something that we have baked into the APIs there. For S3, we can utilize S3 as either a bilateral sync target or a direct backup as well. So we're very flexible from that perspective. Could be S3, could be S3 Glacier. You've got a lot of options there.
Fantastic. Anthony, anything else for Doug?
Thank you, Doug. Thank you for being with us.
Doug, thank you so much for being
here. Thank you guys. The pleasure is mine.
All righty, take care now. Anthony, we're not done. I have more gifts for you.
Oh, you have more gifts?
Christmas came early for you, my friend.
Come on.
So I was also talking to Amazon Web Services about your project. And Amazon is also interested in participating in your journey and making sure that you are leveraging AWS for this project. So you are going to receive a bunch of credits that you can apply towards your AWS account so that we can minimize how much it's costing. I'll send you the details later, but Amazon wants to also be part of it, so you will be receiving that as a gift from them as part of what you're doing, so that you can leverage your on-premises with Synology. It has a nice connection to the cloud providers, in particular to AWS, and you can leverage AWS to store long-term and medium-term data as well.
This is amazing. This is phenomenal. Elias, thank you so much.
Any other questions that you want to talk about? Any other concerns? Anything you want to bring up about this?
Yes, I wanna ask you for something. So when we started, you introduced me to your viewers and your subscribers. I want to ask you to please introduce yourself to my subscribers. We have people watching from all across, from Australia, from Canada. The world is watching. I want to just thank Mark Basil, who's following up every single thing we're saying and giving all his suggestions on the live feed and offering his help to install all the products we're getting today, and we're ongoing. But please, Elias, who are you?
It's embarrassing to me to introduce myself to a Lebanese audience because that feels like my family. We did that on the last podcast. We'll also link to that in the description, but okay, here we go. بالعربي ما بالانجليزي شو بدك نعمل؟
English. We've done it in Arabic. I needed
English is good. My name is Elias Knaser. Anthony likes to make fun of the way I say it, but that's how you say it in English. There's no way around it. You can say Elias, you can say Elias, whatever, but it's the same name. Anyway, I'm from a small village in the Metin in Mount Lebanon called Dhur Shwer. I miss it very much, by the way. I have been in the US since 97. My dad, I swear my dad was born in a kitchen. I actually have proof my dad was born in a kitchen, but my dad's always owned restaurants. I studied in LAU. I studied marketing, but I actually never worked in marketing a day in my life. I've been in technology since 97. I've worked for a lot of large companies in the US. Most recently, I was at Gartner. Gartner is a research firm and advisory firm. I was vice president of research for cloud for 7 years. Today, I'm an independent researcher and influencer and consultant. So I advise customers like McDonald's and Boeing and Microsoft and Apple and Amazon and Google and others on messaging and product positioning and feedback. And I can get very technical in some of these conversations as well because my background is consulting. But in a nutshell, that's what I do, and I'm super happy that I can talk to my Lebanese family through you, and I'm super happy that I can bring my experience and my knowledge to you. Like you, I've written 6 books.
There's exactly. Tell me about the books, tell me about the courses, tell me about everything.
Yeah. There's a 7th book in the making. It's called the Cloud Strategy book that I'm working on. I've done a lot of courses that were published through Pluralsight. They were primarily focused on Amazon Web Services. This is early days. So when I was doing these courses, there was no one that was doing Amazon Web Services courses in 2014 and 2013. I did a lot of Citrix courses, a lot of VMware courses, a lot of Microsoft courses. That's kind of the history. A lot of them you can kind of see in the background. So I'm well published. I write for Redmond magazine, for a Virtualization Review, for Information Week. For a while, I wrote for Forbes as well. Again, all on the tech side. And again, I'm very honored that I can call you my friend. I'm very happy that I'm able to help with this and other things. There's something that we're going to have to do for your internal network at home, so that you can edit over the NAS, but we'll talk about that one in maybe a different episode at a later time.
So we're going to do a different episode when all the systems are going to be implemented. We're going to meet again, you and I, in August. Already planned, already booked. So we're going to discuss, and we're going to definitely do a live episode together when we're going to talk about everything that's happening. And one day, the day all of the behind me are going to disappear, and we're going to have that one system. We're going to thank them again, and we're going to show them how all the data has been put on, all the folders, how can we search by episode, by year, and so on and so forth. I want to really thank you for this initiative.
My pleasure.
Let's put it as is. Let's say it as is. All I did is call Elias, talk with Elias, and propose by pure coincidence. Would you like to go live on YouTube so we can discuss it openly? Let me tell the world my story. Let me tell all the followers our story. It's way much more than just publishing YouTube videos, but there is behind the scenes a kitchen that works very, very hard for it. Elias said, yes, why not? Couple of weeks later, 3 weeks probably later, all I hear is, I have a surprise for you. Let's go online. And this is what it is. And today is Christmas Day. I'm getting offered gifts and support. Thank you so much. And definitely in the upcoming weeks, after my return from Australia, we're going to work hard on decentralizing this data and probably share with whoever is interested in having this content that we're creating for our country with the right people to use it in the right place to promote as much as we can our favorite piece of land on earth.
Yeah, it's not over. I'm still working on trying to get you and me in a session at Amazon reInvent in Vegas so you can talk about everything that we talked about here in front of an audience. So حضر لي حالك, we might be in Vegas soon too.
Yo.
Anthony, thank you for making time today. I loved this episode. I hope we can, it's a little bit different than اللمعة والزيت والقرشة والهواء. And I do a good impression of Anthony.
I should have got you a couple of minutes with me, but probably this connects to you in a way or another.
Oh yes, هيدي بدك يعني هلا جو يعني انه معقول يعني طيب انه that's not fair يعني انه
Does this connect to all of your childhood, guys?
how can it not, right? هيدي بالفرير بالجميزك انه هيدي perfect كانت بالفرصة. We'll talk about that one offline.
Thank you. Thanks for watching, everyone. And we'll see you very soon. Please wait for an edited episode of our 54 minutes live with the inserts. And we'll add all the links for our supporters. And thank you so much for the gifts. Unexpected. And these are way more, much valuable. And I really appreciate it.
أهلا وسهلا. We'll see everyone soon. Take care now.